there is a price to resisting conformity.
True.
So
That's
what are your options? Like,
Yeah.
we want you to ask why. I want you to like to tear chain, basically. But if the tearing chain will mean that will sack you from your house, you then maybe wait when you get a job, then tear the chain, then you go.
And also finding community. In resisting, if you have community, it feels like you have some cushion to fall on.
We only accept written history as true history.
Yeah.
And we only accept written history written in languages that are imperialistic or which have colonial bearings as accurate, right?
Yeah.
Because there's lots of history that already exists in written forms. There's Indian symbols, there's the Ghana Samurai, there's like the Igbo have like written text. There's a lot of history that is documented and which is valid, but which we do not respect or call as correct because it's not in English or it's not in French.
There's just a general total demonization of our traditions and an upliftment of Eurocentric traditions or like of church stuff. Protestants, Catholics, and even in those circles, there's a hierarchy of who has more respect based on where it came from. I think we need to consciously uplift different narratives of Black women who are not married, or Black marginalized people who are not conforming, people who are not married but are living life, people who don't have children but they are living their lives, people who go to work with their hair. Currently, we still value very old white-collar jobs. So lawyers and natural hair, judges and natural hair, doctor with some like cute cornrow, just continuously uplifting these kind of things, these narratives, so that even though young people or young girls or young marginalized people are constantly being bombarded on social media with the things we don't want them to see, we also are giving our side, or we are also pushing narratives from our side that they see this and they see that as well.
Decolonizing our way of life is also very personal. And for us to get to those personal milestones, we need to make personal connections.
Good girls never get the corner office, so do not be cheated like the African culture where you are told have decorum, dress nicely, be kind, be nice. I'm telling you, you will go nowhere. Be a bad girl like me and you'll get somewhere.
Now, as people who live on the African continent, a continent that was very heavily colonized, insert IRO here, we live with a lot of colonial remnants that, it has become part and parcel of our lives. Some we are conscious of, others we are not. And for Black women, it's even more in the way we live, in the way we do things, in the way we dress, in the way we relate with each other. Today, we are going to be talking about Black women decolonizing. Because it's important, because we have come far, because we have come to a point where we should not be living in the shadows of colonialism. And so today we are going to delve into what it means for Black women to decolonize. How do we decolonize our minds, our bodies, our knowledge systems, our aesthetics, our relationships, and the spaces we navigate? And to do this with me are two very badass, let me repeat that, badass feminists. Those of you who are not watching us, sorry for you. You can go to YouTube and look at them. They look badass. They are very proud Black women existing in spaces, various spaces, if I must say, organizing, doing the activism work. And they are going to be doing this discussion with me today. I have Michaela Judson in the studio. I'll let them introduce themselves. I have Michaela Judson in the studio, and I have Tracy Owu with me. Today, we are talking about Black women decolonizing. My name is Abena Beniwa-Fosu. I'm going to let them introduce themselves because the last time I spoke to Michaela, she said there is power in someone telling people who they are. And so it's not enough that you just mention a person's name.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to start with you, Michaela. Who is Michaela?
Hi, my name is Michaela. I almost forgot I said that, but yes, it's something I think about a lot, the power in identity and explaining or allowing people to view you. So yes, my name is Michaela Judson. I like to identify or think of myself as a decolonial feminist activist. So I'm going and I'm coming and I'm thinking around feminist theory a lot in the going and the coming that I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And that is me.
Thank you, Michaela, who goes and comes.
Yes, who goes and comes.
That is hilarious. Hello, my name is Tracy. I'm a feminist activist. I'm non-binary, but I'll be speaking to my experience as someone who was raised as a cis woman. I do a lot of community organizing, movement work, feminist work, just anything that has to do with community expansion, community thriving. You'd see me there, and I'm honored to be on this podcast.
Thank you so much to both of you. You're welcome to the Black Women Mic'd podcast. This is our second episode of our very first season. So we are pumped and happy to get into the conversations. Thank you again so much for coming. I'm going to start with you again, Michaela. What does decolonizing as a Black woman mean for you?
Decolonizing is a very important thing. It feels very literal because, like, to de something, then you're undoing something, and so you're undoing colonizing or undoing colonization. You're undoing the effects of colonization. And while it sounds very literal, it's also a very complex thing because the remnants of colonization, right? People will be like, oh, but we're not colonized anymore, right? But then the reason why we have the phrase decolonizing, or like it's a thing, is because the remnants of colonization are very complex and they are still very, like, with us now. It's so deeply intertwined with our daily life that the process of decolonization is also a very complex one. It's in the going and the coming. It's in the ways we choose to go and come. It's in the places we choose to go, but it's also in the people and the ways that we engage with our environments when we do these things. I think primarily decolonizing or decolonization is doing all of these going and coming with the knowledge that we are actively fighting against something that isn't ours, or something that isn't the original design, and that is colonization and imperialism. So everything and all of the ways that we actively work against or exist against the remnants and the evidence of imperialism and colonization, that is decolonizing.
Yeah. Awesome. I love that you mentioned, recognizing something that isn't ours. At what point did you realize that this thing I'm doing, or this way I'm doing something, or how I'm even navigating this space isn't mine, isn't African?
That realization is something like I'm constantly realizing, right? It's like I'll be going about my day and I realize that, this nursery rhyme that I think is so Ghanaian, or I think it's a part of my experience because I've been singing it since I was a child, and which my siblings have been singing, is not Ghanaian, or is not helpful to the Ghanaian experience because where it's coming from, or what it stands for, or the context within which this seemingly innocent nursery rhyme was created, is coming from, like, violence, very straight out violence, coming from so violence, misogyny, the violence against women. And so it's something that I'm constantly, like, recognizing, dealing with. But I think maybe the earliest, oh my God, moments would have to be maybe like in high school, junior high school. At that point, like as a teenager, that is when you are developing a sense of self.
Yeah.
That is when you have to put your sense of self with the gender roles that you are born into, and then you're also being you are meeting expectations from school, from home, and society is also giving you extra roles based on what they think a woman should be, and a lot of these things are imperialistic or imperial. They are from colonization and the colonial period. So it's around then.
When we are talking about the rhyme, I remembered London Bridge is breaking down, breaking down, breaking down. My first lady, and that's Pussycat, Pussycat, where have you been? I've been to London to look at the Queen. I live in Cape Coast, woman. Why did I go look at the Queen? So, like, these things are things the children sing and it cannot even relate with, but
but then
the colonial
we sing it so much every day at assemblies, right? So every single day, maybe twice in a day. During, like, a lot of schools have break sessions where they play nursery rhymes and stuff for the children, and there's one that I hate. I don't even remember it now, but it basically says that it's teacher's pet, and the person is a teacher's pet. So the song describes who the teacher's pet is. And this teacher's pet has blonde hair and blue eyes. That is not anything Black children should be singing in any school, right? And so you're singing this multiple times, and you're growing up, and then you have this innate dislike for your features, and you don't really know where it comes from. So you think it's like a natural, I just don't like combing my hair, and so I'm going to cut it. So I'm going to have like a weave on or something like that. But then it's because of the songs we sing from like our childhood. It's very subconscious in that way.
Yeah. So we are very early on conditioned to have certain expectations of ourselves, or to look a certain way, and these are ideas of what beauty is, what is perfect, how a person should look like. Yeah. Che, what about you? What does decolonizing mean to you?
It's the same thing as Michaela has said. It's undoing the harms of colonialism. I think we were colonized, or the whole continent was colonized between 400 to 500 years. And it's funny to think that the people just up and left and just left us to live our lives. Like, there's something that was done, there was harm that was caused. It has come from generations to generations. It's here with us. So it's understanding that harm, and then understanding how it has impacted our lives, and then looking at how to undo it. It starts from the mind, because we win everything over here. So if in my mind, I already cannot identify with being a teacher's pet because I don't have blue eyes and blonde hair, I've already lost. I'm going to grow up wanting blue eyes and blonde hair, which is not possible. Which means I'd go through so many processes, and in the end, I may not even have any hair. So it's really about undoing the harms of colonialism from the mind, and then hopefully that starts to reflect on how we are engaging with ourselves, with other things, with other people, and also like with nature.
And I'll ask you the same thing I asked Michaela. At what point did you come to the realization that no, like you just snap that no, this isn't me. This isn't, my culture. This isn't how I should identify or live.
Just like Michaela, it's also, for me, it's a daily experience. It's a continuous experience. But I think the main event was high school, coming into like the person I am, just understanding like who I am through my features, and how these features were used against me in spaces that were all Black, African, Ghana children, and just internalizing that, and later realizing that, well, my hair that they are saying is not looking nice. It's really soft, and I can twist it and it looks okay. My skin is okay. My teeth is okay. Like, everything is fine. And even if it's not, this is what I've been given. We are here. What are we going to do about it? So that was my first major.
Would you say decolonizing is personal or political?
It's personal and political. I don't think you can do one and leave the other. I don't think we can be on the streets and marching and changing policies and what if the people don't even understand what it is that we're supposed to be doing. Like, it has to be both. It's both ways, and we can't do personal shifts and have like political effects. Like, it has to be both happening at the same time, or interchange, intertwine.
I think it's both. For similar reasons, but also because the person is political. Like, we do exist as individuals, but all of us as individuals are parts of systems, and systems are what politics are. Like, systems are the politics. So the person is political. The ways in which that we exist in systems and in places are constantly under, like, there's always a power play. Someone is controlling something to get more power over something because of who you are and where you are. And so, yes, you can't separate it. You can't compartmentalize. You can put it in compartments,
period.
but you can't like completely separate it, because you're always going to exist in the system, and you as a person going through your daily life is political. So then, yes.
Let's talk about the way that, colonial remnants manifest in our society, in our education, in our religions, in our oral traditions, in medicine, in the very the various aspects of society. How do you see, remnants of colonization manifesting? We talked about the nursery rhymes. In what ways have you picked on that, this is colonial, that we shouldn't be doing this?
We've seen it in our education. You've mentioned the rhymes. But it's not just the rhymes, it is what we are taught and how we are taught them. It is being taught that there are benefits to colonialism. And being like, we are asked to sit in class and listen to that and write exams on it. And like, you have to think of the benefits of colonialism and accept that. That's crazy. It's also in how we view ourselves, how we view our big noses and our big lips, how we view our ears, our eyes, our skin color, our body, size. Even right now, the current beauty standard of like slim waist, big bum bum, like how many of us fit it? Even though it's like, it is uplifting in quotes, like African stature, it is in a very specific way. Like you have to be skinny in some parts, your arms cannot be flabby, the ass has to be in a particular shape. Like it's still, you can see it cut across like all of these ways.
What's crazy though is that these standards, like beauty standards, and I'm picking on that because you mentioned it, like the body shape, it keeps shifting.
It does.
So before, being skinny was the thing because, European women were typically skinny. So if you're skinny, then that's what makes you pretty. Like Black women were like, we are too much. You have a lot of ass and you have a lot of boobs and like, ew.
Yeah.
That's not what beauty is, So there was this image of who is beautiful. And then I don't know who got white women into liking big butts. So white women decided we want thick lips and we want big asses. And then all of a sudden, that is what is the standard.
Yeah.
So big asses and then big boobs and thick lips. And then Black women picked that up and then decided that, okay, Black women who don't have the asses say, okay, then now we need BBL. Sometimes it's crazy to me that how have we, allowed ourselves to get to the point where Western, colonial, and I would say colonial, like colonial ideologies or ideas of beauty or standards of beauty is what we follow. Even now, when they are not over here on our necks. There's neocolonialism and, but you think that in the 21st century, we would like stick to what we know.
Yeah. There's society and there's relating to other people. We don't live in a vacuum. So even if you decide that the body that you were given is the greatest and you're in love with it, that's how you'll be treated based on that body. That's how there's the privilege you receive based on that body. So it's just so much you engage with based on what you are given that it seeks to even matter that you are decolonizing your mind to accept your features. Like you don't exist alone. And the social media also like amplifies all of these like features that are nice or features that are, what's the word I'm looking for? Accepted or that is made the center of attraction. So all of these factors really play into how like now it's more difficult, or now it doesn't make sense that we have access to all of these things, but we are still being dictated to by like body shapes and like identities like that.
I don't think it's something that we've allowed to happen to us. Sure, it might seem like that in some instances because we can, especially now, cultural shifts are happening much faster and more visibly in our generation because of just how the world has been structured now. There's way more technology that allows us to see how things are shifting in real time. But I wouldn't say we've allowed it to happen. And that's a funny thing, right? We think of beauty standards as superficial. And we use words like superficial when we are describing beauty standards, like, oh, it's only skin deep. But it's not that superficial because beauty standards are very closely tied to like job opportunities, to access, to privilege. And so why should I, in the ways that I can control, allow myself to suffer more, right? If all I need to get a job and have access to possibly more money and then more power and a better standard of life, and all I have to do is bleach my skin, that sounds like a very smart course of action to me. So then it's not, sure, it does sound superficial, but then it really isn't, right? Because you're doing all of these things because it's tied to power and it's tied to access. And you need power and access to be able to exist. And women need more of these things because we are at the bottom of the food chain. Right? There's way more things against us. Like, sure, you need a job. Are you going to get a job?
Yeah.
Would you get paid as well? Fine, you get a job. There's a car at work, but then do you have access to learn how to drive the car to then now claim the car so that you can claim full benefits? Right? And so then at the end of the day, there's just a lot of things at stake, and you don't want to put yourself even like farther behind. And so you're going to conform to the things that, or the standards or the markers that are more acceptable at the time. So it's definitely not superficial, and that is why it keeps happening. And that is how, even though it's constantly changing, it might seem like, how is it that we are in Ghana, we are in Accra, we are in Takoradi, and still being affected by all of these things? Because now in 2025, in the last 10, 20, 30, I don't know the internet, but since then, whatever happens in other places, we are being directly affected by, and the consequences of those affect us as well.
Yeah. Let's talk about, I want us to talk practicalities. Let's talk about faith. Let's talk about food. Another huge one. Let's talk about, language. How are we seeing colonial remnants manifest in these ways, especially for us as Black women who are constantly living these realities?
Like, one of my, it's weird to use the word favorite when it's not like cake or it's not, cake. One of my favorite examples of how coloniality is very existent here for Black women, for Ghanaians, is in architecture, right? It's like for a culture, for cultures, also again, another way colonization and imperialism does a big number on us is the fact that we say things like culture as Ghanaians talking about our women experience, and the fact that we assume that we all have a homogeneous experience in Ghana here. We don't. It's a lot of different cultures, a lot of different languages, lots of different elements that make the different experiences different. One of the very interesting ones for me is the fact that for the majority of the Ghanaian West African food experience, our food choices, or like the ways we prepare food, are like, it's very aromatic. A lot of pungent smells, taste, very strong taste, very strong colors, right? And somehow we think it's cool or a good idea that there are kitchens inside of apartments, or that we have an open layout. Like, that's the height of luxury, to have an open layout apartment or house where like it's white countertops and the stoves are like mid-thigh level, stuff like that. Sure, it's cute, it looks nice, but then how are you going to do banku and palm nut soup? Like, those tiles upstairs are going to crack in the next few years. Right? And
how do you put more money?
Exactly.
And dawa.
And dawa, more money. So then you without realizing it, we find ourselves taking these things out of our diet, or taking these processes out of our cultural experience, right? And so that's a very like harmful way that colonialism and imperialism is showing us like skills, right? Where if you compare it to more indigenous house structures, the kitchens are like outhouses, right? And the firestones are low. So it's not because they couldn't make mud pots high enough, but the firestones are low. Like when you're making banku, it's a 3-legged prong type situation. It's readjusting your core of gravity. It's readjusting. So like it took a long time for those processes to be developed. And they were for reasons that in the moment you might not consider. The pot is not cute, it's not nice, but practical. We can always glaze a coal pot. Like why haven't we glazed the coal pot so it's pink, right? We could just do that. But then instead we are adopting or adapting ways of doing things, or architecture, parts of architecture, like roofing, right? Window sills, like just the kind of windows that we use, the kind of materials that we build our buildings with, knowing very well that it's going to rain very heavily in June. And it's going to get cold. So that's like a very practical example that always comes to mind. So it's favorites of mine, but it's not like a good favorite. That's one of mine.
When I think about food, right, and decolonizing, I think about what we consider healthy. So for us, when we are trying to say increase, to reduce a deficiency. Like, oh yeah, eat apples, like eat peach, or kale is good. So you'd go to a nutritionist in Ghana and they would recommend these things. Oh, like eat strawberries. And I'm just thinking, okay, so before the colonial era, what were we eating? Like, are you saying that people can't do turkey berries? You can't say, oh, eat contomere, or like eat this fruit that is, local to us. And so you realize that you walk out of the office or the hospital of a nutritionist and you cannot afford the meal plan they have given to you because they are all imported things that, you are recommended to. But that was just my way of chipping in. Trey, you wanted to add on?
Yeah, no. I also, as you're speaking about like more money and things, I also was just thinking about like the added layer of oppression. It's not even oppression, but there's an added layer when like your house doesn't smell great because of from like that kind of cooking you do, which puts you on another like now you're probably like a barbarian. Why is your house smelling like rotten fish? So there's also that layer. But I also want to speak to faith and then to oral traditions. I think it's very common knowledge that our traditional religions are demonized. Even, I won't speak for everyone, but even to me that I try to view them through another lens, there are still some things that I see and just like, this thing, I don't think it's very civil. But like, what is civil? What's civilized? Like, who defined it, There's just a general total demonization of our traditions and an upliftment of Eurocentric traditions or like of church stuff. Protestants, Catholics, and even in those circles, there's a hierarchy of who has more respect based on where it came from and who has like the least. And you can see it down here in like the access they have, where their church buildings are located, the areas they are in, how big it is, and stuff like that. And when it comes to oral tradition, we can see colonization or the effects of it in how we like the hierarchy of knowledge or where we place knowledge. Oral tradition is folklore, is down there, research and, peer educated stuff. Like that's where it's at. Like every academic wants to have some writing in some, published in some journal and stuff like that. But grandma stories, it's cool, it's cute. We're not doing anything with it. So it's just in how we put like these systems of knowledge on a hierarchy of like what's more important and what's not. I mean, religion is just how we also like put these different religions on a hierarchy based on like what conforms more to Western imperialism.
Before we continue from here, right, like oral tradition, memory work, and history, right? The example about every academician or like not even that, right? Like you're going to school and then for you, what you think is like the height of academic success is being published, right? But you can't get published because you have to meet an ethics board and you have to be peer reviewed, right? And these people, so you're doing research in Ghana, you're doing research like in your hometown about something that you've noticed, you've seen, and then they're going to keep bouncing it because nobody else has, like, there's no context for it. There's no context for it because I'm not talking about what you've written about, right? And it's very valid. It should be very valid that sources of resources, it's correct, sources of resources and research, even when they don't look like what is in a history book, should be taken into account. And that's also very interesting to me because I like saying this, whoever has the pen has the power, right? History is written by the winner. It doesn't make it accurate. But then here is the case that you find history being taught being taught based on the books that are written and co-signed or publishers, like publishing houses. It's such a big thing, the amount of power they control. Yes, the amount of power they have controlling what actually goes into a book at all or not, right? And we saw that recently when the curriculum was changed and then certain cultural groups' history were being changed. And if it didn't go to a review board, if people hadn't seen it, those are the books that are going to go to our students and our younger siblings, and they're going to learn a warped version, even of just our immediate like history. So we can only imagine just how much of our history we do not know, we do not have access to, which is constantly being changed, because the people that write the history, no, first of all, because we only accept written history as true history.
Yeah.
And we only accept written history written in languages that are imperialistic or which have colonial bearings as accurate, right?
Yeah.
Because there's lots of history that already exists in written forms. There's Idinkra symbols, there's the Ghana Samurai, there's like the Igbo have like written text. There's a lot of history that is documented and which is valid, but which we do not respect or call as correct because it's not in English or it's not in French, it's not in Portuguese. Yes, whatever their
Portuguese,
their language and the language of Portugal people in Portuguese.
Yeah. Thank you, Michaela. All right. So I want us to get into the day-to-days. We've talked about, the ways in which colonial remnants manifest in our lives. We've seen how with colonialism came religion and other cultures and socializations that we have internalized and have, continuously passed it on to generations after. We've seen how, that has determined the place of a woman in society, that has determined how women are supposed to look like. Even now, we are constantly, like we mentioned, we are constantly pandering to the change, the shifting standards of beauty, set by, Western standards, and we keep imitating that. How do we circle back to our ancestry? How do we conscientize that as Black women, especially because a lot of it centers around us, the way we are expected to behave, the way we are expected to do things, the way we are expected to show up. And Michaela, you mentioned how, certain privileges are awarded you based on how you look. It's basically like how you conform. How do we get Black women to move from that into being more of our authentic selves? I made a video on TikTok talking about how we are blindly copying ways of doing makeup. Black women did makeup way before colonization. Like our foremothers were using charcoal to paint their lips, and they were using charcoal for, eyeshadow. Now that's these smoky eyes that we are doing now. Our foremothers were doing it. They were braiding their hair, they were decorating their hair. It's known that Egyptian women did elaborate makeup. They were using clay as eyeshadows and all of that. So our foremothers did makeup. But makeup trends now keep changing to the point where white women are overlining their lips to achieve thick lips.
Yeah.
And Black women are copying blindly because it's a trend, not understanding that white women who do this and set the standards for, ways of doing makeup, they overline because they have smaller lips and they're trying to have thick lips, but you have it already. So why are you doing this? We are contouring our nose to have very small, slim, pointed nose, which is the white women, white feet. It's a white feature. Our noses are broad and flat, but so why are why are we imitating these standards? How do we move away from these?
Well, first of all, I think we need to have grace, and compassion.
Yeah.
Michaela has already given us like an insight into why these things are no longer just on the surface.
Yeah.
They are connected to power.
Yeah.
So people copying blindly, it's not blindly like that. It's for something.
Yeah.
People overlining their lips. White people are copying us. It's not all of us that have thick lips. So maybe it's my time to like also, pop it up, show you, and trends are trends because we follow them. And social media makes it much easier and it's easy to fall into them and to copy them.
How do we still keep up with trends without demonizing who we are as Black women? I think that's the point that, it gets crazy for me because, if you have to demonize your features as a Black woman or your way, your ancestry, your culture, like Michaela mentioned, there are different cultures, but all of our cultures have the different ways that they manifest. How do we then separate following trends, which are Western set trends, and demonizing who you are authentically as a Black woman? What's your thinking, Michaela?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, go on.
A quick answer would be
Oh,
that
but
we
you
should
can
follow.
also, if you've remembered
That's
now.
when she's done.
Okay.
Is that we should follow trends set by Black women, right? But then that's where we go back to the earlier conversation about like, is it personal or political? It's political because it's a system, right? Like, I would like to follow a trend set by a Black woman, set by Ghanaians, right? But then is TikTok going to put a Black woman's makeup tutorial on my feed in enough time so that it becomes a trend, right? So I don't know at the end of the day. And that's why we need to have grace and understand that sure, it's not great, but also it's because of the systems that we are in. That's why it's happening. But my actual answer will be to constantly ask why. I feel like if we ask why a lot, and that's another thing, right? Even telling yourself that you would ask why is deviance. It's resisting oppression. It's resisting like the systems that be, because colonial education and imperialistic or imperial occupation, which is what we are going through now, teaches us to not ask why, to not ask questions at all, to follow, because power needs people to be powerful over, to enact power on, and if we start by asking ourselves why we don't ask why, but also maybe that's like a level 3. Don't ask yourself why you don't ask why, just ask why. So we ask why can't I go into this place? Why can't I come into church on this particular day with my afro? Why can't I join the choir if my hair is locked? Like, that's something I've actually got. So why can't I join the choir if my hair is locked? Why can't I wear this particular kind of fabric into a place? The answers might surprise you. And the answers not surprising you is reason why you should do it regardless, right? Like, ask why is here, but then hopefully you have the answer.
Yeah, I would even add to that. In asking like why can't, you should also like be asking why am I? Like, why am I overlining my lips? Why am I wearing wigs? Why am I? It's for fun, cool. It's for like appearance. Okay, maybe let's look at that. But the why would always be like the center. If you can figure out why you're doing something, if it's because if I present in this particular way, I will be treated this way, and so I'm avoiding that, then you have your why and you can work from that why. I think that's
I also want to add that there is a price to resisting conformity.
true.
So
That's
what are your options? Like,
Yeah.
we want you to ask why. I want you to tear chain, basically. But if the tearing chain will sack you from your house, you then maybe wait when you get a job, then tear the chain, then you go. You get and this is a very maybe superficial example, but it's proving the point that we are doing all of this conforming and we are following all of these trends because there are consequences when you don't do them. There were consequences when they didn't do them 50, 60, 80, 100 years ago, 150 years ago, and there are consequences now. The consequences might change. Because of the consequences, we don't know what the other options might be. And the consequences might have changed, but there are still consequences. Some of the consequences, really, we can do without, right? So if you don't do a particular trend with a particular shade of makeup, you will still, maybe I'm making content, right? You can still do the content with a different, it's still a consequence, but it doesn't mean it's a consequence grave enough to not be authentic self, right? And so it comes back to asking why, right? Or other questions. And so, so it's another good question to ask. And so what?
And also finding community. In resisting, if you have community, it feels like you have some cushion to fall on. If you didn't wear makeup and you went somewhere and some man said, we need time or something, just go back to your girls or whoever and just cry. Like, why is the world like this? And next day be out there with your bare face again. Community makes a huge difference in this kind of resisting.
Awesome.
The answer is community. The other answer is finding community. And again, if you're on social media, because we're all on social media, it can be a way to find community. And when you have community, even through social media, it makes like the consequences of the real world a little bit better to bear, especially as Black women, that you want your ears to be heard. It's helpful to have
Yes.
community.
And I know that like we're saying community and it's like it's easy because we are in it, but it takes time. It takes showing up constantly. And that's a whole lot of another thing on its own. But it is possible.
Another episode.
You know, it's possible. You can go to restaurants, eateries, pottery classes. It also takes resources. But maybe go to the beach and walk, maybe fine.
Take a walk, join community. Let's wrap up with this. We know that these things don't happen in a vacuum. We are socialized into these ideologies or these practices or these ways of thinking and behaving. We've talked about what the personal can do. What can we do as a society to conscientize Black women, Black girls growing up, to love their hair, as kinky as they are, to love their natural features, to understand that I don't have to exist in a binary, because before colonialism, there were various sexualities or identities of gender, or identities of gender and sexual expressions, and they were fine. And I can do this, and I don't have to be this way to consider myself beautiful. How do we, as a collective, because a lot of it is it's socialized into us in schools, at church, at playgrounds, with our aunties when we gather as a family. How do we decolonize as a collective so that we are conscientizing girls in a way that is more authentically African?
Yeah, I think we need to consciously uplift different narratives that allow us to push this agenda, in quotes, if it is an agenda. But narratives of Black women who are not married, or Black marginalized people who are not conforming, people who are not married but are living life, people who don't have children but they are living their lives, people who go to work with their hair. Currently, we still value very old white-collar jobs. So lawyers and natural hair, judges and natural hair, doctor with some like cute cornrow, just continuously uplifting these kind of things, these narratives, so that even though young people or young girls or young marginalized people are constantly being bombarded on social media with the things we don't want them to see, we also are giving our side, or we are also pushing narratives from our side that they see this and they see that as well.
Yeah. Thank you.
Pop culture, but then what has pop culture done, right? So we should show alternative realities and narratives in pop culture whenever we can. Like don't do an advert and then the before is a Black woman and then somehow the after is a different actress who is like
Nivea, Clark,
10 shades lighter or something like that. But yes, but also being the
so like these music videos that now their vixens are all mixed race women or white women, like the biggest artists. They are flying in mixed race or white women from outside the country to come be vixens, because that is what is beautiful. And so Black girls are watching this and they're internalizing this and aspiring to be that.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you.
Oh no. So come and hire me to be in your music video. Smart choirs. Yeah, but also
0244.
Also, those of us that have gotten this awareness of like decolonial or decolonized beauty standards or just decolonized ways of living, just when we are going out and coming in our decolonial ways, we should, and this is not consequences, right? Like the other point is that we should be there. We should try and be visible so that we can, maybe not visible like on TV, big, standing for presidents visible, but like when you go to church, say hi to another younger girl, right? Just say hello to her, that sort of thing. And I know that already women have a very unfair burden, like of labor to be the carers and the I'm very don't do. But it is very helpful when younger people see representation really, really does matter. Younger people see you as a doctor, a lawyer, like you are just a random auntie, and on a regular, like you have locks or you want anklets, you like curvies, you use African print, you eat more money food. Like when you're going to your family house, usually you don't want to deal with all of the wahala, but you have like a really young niece or nephew or something. Like you have a younger family member who could do with that representation and could do with like feeling a sense of community, knowing that it's okay to grow up with the skin tone that they have, with the skin conditions that they have, with the hair texture that they have, with the body size they are in. It can be it seems very difficult. But again, like in the beginning, decolonizing our way of life is also very personal. And for us to get to those personal milestones, we need to make personal connections.
That is such a powerful note to end. Tracy, did you want to add something?
I said period.
Period. Thank you. We have been talking about decolonizing ourselves as Black women. We've spoken about how we can exist without, subscribing to colonial ideologies of how we are to navigate society, how we are to show up, how we are to think of ourselves, and just basically how we exist as Black women in this world. I have been speaking to Michaela and Tracy. They have been the most insightful guests ever and also fun. It's still Black Women Mic'd. We are on the season where we are talking about how Black women can reimagine ourselves, how we shift narratives and perspectives, and how we change the worldview that has been put on us and show who we really are on our own terms. It's been an interesting discussion. Do catch up with us on our socials, Black Women Mic'd, on Instagram, on Facebook, and on TikTok, and of course on YouTube, on Spotify, and every other platform you get your podcast from. It's been episode 2. And, till we see you again or hear from us again, it's bye. My name has been Abena Beniwafusu.
Bye. Thank you. This is cool. Yay.